I'm Bruff Hansen, and I want to show you how a slow, close reading of ancient texts can improve your thinking, writing, and communication. Let's go. So here are 3 descriptions of a mythical Danish king, Sheafson, from the Old English epic Beowulf. First, a summary written by a human. Sheafson was a mighty king who terrified his enemies and won many battles. Although he was born an orphan, he eventually subdued his rivals and achieved success. Next, here's one written by AI.
He was Sheafson, a feared warrior who attacked many tribes, smashing their...
I can't. And now, one written by Nobel Prize-winning Irish poet, Seamus Heaney. There was Sheafson, scourge of many tribes, a wrecker of Mead benches, rampaging among foes. This terror of the hall troops had come far. A foundling to start with, he would flourish later on as his powers waxed and his worth was proved. In the end, each clan on the outlying coasts beyond the Whale Road had to yield to him and begin to pay tribute. That was one good king. Now, why do the first 2 suck? We can answer that question by answering some things that Heaney does extremely well. Let's get into it. There was Sheafson, scourge of many tribes. Look at the word selection. Heaney doesn't describe Sheafson by his office. He's not a warrior, not a general, not a king, but a scourge. What's a scourge? Let's look it up. Scourge, noun. First, a whip, especially one used to inflict pain or punishment. 2, an instrument of punishment or criticism. And 3, a cause of wide or great affliction. If we Google scourge whip, we can see that it's this gnarly thing, with multiple thongs and metal tied at the end, etc. Great writers like Heaney, like Shakespeare, often choose words that go 2 or 3 definitions deep and still work on every level. Sheafson, I can't get that right. Sheafson's a figurative whip, a general instrument of punishment, and a cause of great affliction all at once. Let's keep going. There was Sheafson, scourge of many tribes, wrecker of Mead benches, rampaging among foes. Let's look at this noun, Mead benches. When you want to introduce an object into your narrative, you want it to be as context-specific as possible. What's a Mead bench? Well, it's a bench where his enemies presumably sat to enjoy a glass, flagon, of mead, which is an ancient honey-based alcohol. They sat on a mead bench when they wanted to party or relax or eat dinner. It's an object, in other words, that sits, no pun intended, in their most intimate spaces, usually in a place called a hall, which is something we'll get to later. A really sturdy, context-specific object can do a lot of heavy lifting for your narrative. Heaney doesn't have to tell us about all the buildings Sheafson destroyed and all the enemies he slayed. Instead, he focuses our imagination on one thing that, by its specificity, captures that same global devastation. Sheafson wrecks something at the heart of his enemy's culture, a locus of stability and peace. And, as a bonus, we get to visualize the literal image of a savage-looking warrior having a wooden bench with an enormous Braveheart sword or something. This terror of the hall troops had come far. So halls in this world were these kind of royal, communal gathering places. Grand buildings chock full of, you guessed it, mead benches. A foundling to start with. He would flourish later on as his powers waxed and his worth was proved. Footnote: a foundling is an infant that's found after its own parents have abandoned it. The sense of the abandoned orphan turned royal is a very old trope. Think Moses, Oedipus, Steve Jobs. But waxed is the word I want to circle. So wax here, I think Heaney is using in the second verb definition to increase in phase or intensity, used chiefly of the moon. Moons wax to fullness, and moons wane. Sheafson's power only waxed. Another great, juicy verb. I'd like to point out that even the great Seamus Heaney is not above a simple, tried and true poetic device that you probably learned about in middle school, alliteration, which entails repeating the initial consonants of consecutive words, here in two sequential lines. So we have foundling and flourish, waxed and worth. When in doubt, alliteration can give your writing a bit of bubbly buoyancy. Boom. On we go. In the end, each clan on the outlying coasts beyond the whale road had to yield to him and begin to pay tribute. Footnote: Mead bench, hall troops, and whale road are all compound words known as Kennings. Two words stitched together with a hyphen to coin a whole new noun, a common figurative device in Old Norse and Old English poetry. I, for one, find them beautiful in their efficiency, and I think we should bring them back. Imagine how much more poetic our everyday lives would be. Word scratcher, foot suit, brain rotter? As with Mead benches, the word whale road here also shows a deep understanding of the world we're in. The peoples of Beowulf, the so-called Spear Danes and the Geats, are proto-Vikings, warrior peoples whose primary means of transportation is the sea. The sea will mean different things to different cultures, but by choosing the word whale road to describe the sea, we can infer that this is a culture that knows it so intimately that they have observed whale migratory patterns. Whale road also gives us descriptive depth, literally, as the poem gives a three-dimensional essence to the visually two-dimensional surface of the ocean by compounding what lurks underneath, whales, with what they're up to, hitting the road. In the end, each clan on the outlying coasts beyond the whale road had to yield to him and begin to pay tribute. That was one good king. Finally, we end on a commonplace phrase. That was one good king. A sentence you or I might say in casual conversation. A cliche even, that every writing book ever will implore you to avoid. But Heaney earns it. After a biographical tour de force, this lands with ironic and satisfying understatement. Think of it. The wrecker of Mead benches, the terror of hall troops, the foundling who subdued the known world. He was a pretty good king. One thing I love about really closely reading these kind of emergent texts, these stories that come from oral traditions deep in the mists of time, is just how deep they are. We just scratched the surface of this one passage, and look how much we already learned. Now you combine that with a translator who is also a Nobel Prize-winning poet, and you can absolutely feel the meat and blood and girth of every single moment in this world. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.